In this video, we are going to discuss about nested structures in C. So before we see the fundamental concepts of nested structures in C, first let us discuss what do we mean by type definition. So type definition is actually an alternate name that you are going to give for an existing data type. So basically you are trying to create a new data type from the inbuilt or the primitive data types that has been defined in C. So basically we are going to give an alternate name or some other name for an existing data type. So in C we have primitive data types like integer, float, double, character, void. So these are all the inbuilt data types, or these are all the primitive data types that are available in C. And from the primitive data types, what the user can do is the user can develop their own user defined data types. For example, arrays. Array is actually a user defined data type where we try to make use of the inbuilt or the primitive data type like integer, float, character, or double. So for example, if I want to create a string, then I'm going to make use of a character array where I'm trying to develop an array of a character type. So character is a primitive data type. Character is an inbuilt data type that has been already defined in C, where your user is trying to create his own defined data types with the help of the inbuilt data type. So such kind of data types are called as the user defined data types. So when we try to create a new data type from the existing or the primitive data types that are already available in your programming language, then it means that you are trying to do a type definition. So basically type definition is where you try to create a new data type from the existing data type, or you're trying to give an alternate name to a existing data type. So the keyword that we are going to make use here in type definition is type def. So this is a keyword. Type def is a keyword that we are going to use. So the syntax is that first we have to give the keyword that is type def, and then we have to give the existing data type or the inbuilt primitive data type that has been defined in the programming language of C, followed by a space. Then we have to give the name of the new data type. So for example, let's say for example typed, here I have made use of the keyword that is type def, that is a keyword for the type definition, followed by the inbuilt or the primitive data type float. So float is actually an existing data type in C programming language. So I'm going to make use of the existing data type that is available, followed by a space. I'm just giving a new name for the particular data type. So here decimal is the name that I have given. So decimal, hereafter when I am trying to use this word decimal, it will act as a float data type. So decimal is the new name of the data type that is float. So what happens here is, I'm here initially what we try to do is we try to declare a variable of float data type using the keyword that is float. But here what I'm going to do is, with the help of the type definition, I'm making use of the new data type name that was been given for the float. So float has been given a new data type name that is decimal with the help of your type definition keyword. So your decimal, this particular keyword decimal, is now going to take the name of the data type that is float. So what happens here is decimal will take the data type as float and followed by the variable name, and then I'm trying to assign the value of that particular variable. So here your decimal is a type definition, and that type definition is actually pointing to the data type that is float. So decimal has taken the new name of the data type that is float, and I have created a variable followed by the decimal data type. So decimal data type in the sense it's a float data type. So I have taken a variable name and that has been assigned to some decimal value. I mean that's a float value. So type definition can be either local or global. So when we see the demonstration, I'll tell you the actual example as well. So basically your structure is also basically a type definition data type. So here what we try to do is, I have created a keyword type definition followed by struct is a keyword in order to notify the compiler that you are creating a structured data type. So employee, this employee is actually the name of your structure name. It's actually the name of your structure. So here we have the employee ID as an integer data type, and name and address as character arrays, and salary as a double data type. So this particular structure, that is employee, has got 4 structure members, that is the employee ID, the name, address, and then the salary. So there are 4 structure members in this particular employee structure. So again, let me tell you, type definition is the keyword that I am using, followed by struct is the keyword in order to define your structure, and the name of your structure given is the employee. So here the employee consists of 4 structure members. There's the employee ID, which is of integer data type, name of a character array that can occupy 20 memory space, and address of a character array that can occupy 50 bytes of memory, and salary as a double data type. So your employee will act as a new data type, that is of structure data type. That's of a structure data type. So the name of your particular structure is the employee, that is going to act as a new data type. So whenever I'm trying to create a variable, so what we usually do is we give the data type followed by the variable name. So this is something very familiar for you. What we have done is we have just given the name of the particular structure, that is nothing but the data type of that particular structure, followed by the variable name. So this is something similar to what we saw, type definition, float, and then decimal in the previous few minutes back. So what we did is type definition will give the new name for a existing data type. So here the existing data type is structure, and the name that you are given for that particular structure is employee, and that is going to be the new data type for your variable. So with the help of the type definition, it just means that you are giving an alternate name to the user defined data type as well. So structure is actually user defined data type, but still what we are doing is with the help of your type definition, you are just trying to alter the name of this particular structure, that is employee. So with the help of this particular employee data type, you can just try to create the variable name. So next we'll see how you can copy the structure variables. So basically when we try to assign some values in your normal programming language, we use the assignment operator. So let's say for example a value equal to 10. So it means that 10 has been assigned to the variable, that is a. And what happens when you're trying to assign a variable to another variable? So let's say for example in the place of a equal to 10, I just imagine you just try to assign a equal to b, which means the value of b is getting assigned to the variable a. So similarly you can also copy the structure variables among each other. So again I'm telling you a very simple example. I am just creating a structure in the name of employee. So employee is a data type, and it is of a structure data type. So here what happens is I have created the structure members, that is employee ID, name of the employee, as well as the salary. All are of different data types, and here at the end of defining my employee structure, I have created a variable. I have created a variable e1, and I have directly initialized the I have directly initialized the values for my structure variable. So employee is actually the structure name, and that particular structure name indicates a new data type, and for that particular data type I have created a variable, that is e1, and that e1 has been assigned to the values. I mean, it has been assigned to the given values, that is 101. 101 will point to the employee ID, the name Gopal will point to the character array, and the value 30,000 will point to the salary member. So all these members, employee ID, name, and salary, they are all the members of your structure, and we have created the variable for your structure, that is e1, and the name of the structure is your employee. So now so if you try to see e1 dot employee, I mean e1 dot eid will have the value that is 101, e1 dot name will have the value that is Gopal, e1 dot salary will have the value that is 30,000. I think you are clear with the concept of the dot operator in order to access the members that is present in your structure. So now what I have done is in the next statement I have just created another variable for my employee structure, that is e2, and this particular variable is being assigned to the variable that is e1. So e1 is a variable of your structure employee, and e2 is also a variable of the structure that is employee. So the variable e1 is now getting assigned to the variable that is e2. So e2 will now have whatever values was there pointed to the particular member structure of employee ID, name, salary. So the same values will be possessed by the particular variable, that is E2 as well. So if I'm trying to access the employee ID with the variable that is E2, it will have the same value as 101 that was given in the E1 dot employee ID. And again, if you try to access the E2 dot name, so this is nothing but your name is actually a member structure, and that value is being possessed because of the assignment of the E1 value towards E2. And again, E2 dot salary will again point to 30,000, which came as an outcome of E1 dot salary that was being mapped as 30,000. So this is how you can copy the structure variables by using the assignment operator, So now we will see the concept of nested structures. So when we go for the concept of nested structures, basically we may have learned about the concept of loopings, nested looping, where a loop statement consists of another loop within itself. So basically in your nested structure, whenever we have a structure placed within another structure, then that is called as a nested structure. So for example, it will contain another structure as a member, as a structure member. So basically your structure will have a lot of members within itself, and one of the member that is of a structured data type is being considered as a nested structure. So let me see an example, then it will be clear for you. So here what I'm doing is I'm just trying to create a structure for address. So here I'm using the keyword that is struct followed by the name of the structure, that is address. So address is going to have the members, that is door number, street, city, and then the pin code. So door number of integer data type, street as a character array that can occupy 20 bytes of memory, and the city as a character array that can occupy 10 bytes of memory, and the pin code that is of a double data type. So this is basically my structure for the data type, that is address. So address is actually a structured data type that consists of these following members. Now I'm trying to create another structure, that is for the employee. So for the employee, what I'm doing is I've created a structure using the keyword struct followed by the name of the structure, that is employee, and this particular employee has the following data members. The first data member, the first structure member is the employee ID of integer data type. The second structure member is a name that can occupy 20 bytes of memory space. So name is actually a character array, and the third one is going to be your address. Now here what happens is the third member is the address, and that particular address is being defined with the data type, that is your address structure, that is with your address structure. And then finally I have just created my variable for my structure. So basically in your employee structure, what I have done is the third member in your structure is actually variable, is actually a variable that is of a structured data type. So basically your address, that is the third member, that is the address, will point out to all the members of your structure, that is address over here. So what happens is if I want to access these members, so with the help of E1, with the help of the variable E1 and using the dot operator, I can access the employee ID. With the help of E1 using the dot operator, I can access the name. And when I'm trying to access the address, the members of this particular address variable lies in the structure definition of address that consists of the door number, street, city, and then the pin code. So basically if I want to touch the address, if I want to touch the data that is present in the address, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of the variable name followed by the dot operator, and then I have to make use of the member of my structure, that is address, which is pointing to the address structure definition. And this particular address structure definition will point to the door number, street, pin code, as well as the city. So if I want to access a particular nested structure member, then what I have to do is I have to make use of the variable name followed by the name of the particular member that is present in your actual structure, followed by the member of the structure definition. So now we are going to see the demonstration of whatever discussed we have so far. So first and foremost thing, we are going to discuss about the concept of this type definition. So let's say for example I'm using the keyword type def for the type definition. Okay, so I'm just converting my data type float, I'm giving a new value for, I'm giving a new name for my data type, that is float. So let's say for example I'm giving the name as FL. So instead of using the keyword that is float, hereafter what I will do is I'll be making use of the new name, that is FL, in the name of float. So what I'm going to do is I'm just trying to create a variable pi value is equal to 3.1415. So the same example whatever we saw in the theoretical concept. So what I've done is, instead of giving the data type as float, I'm just giving the type definition name of float, that is FL. So simply to speak, now if I'm trying to print the value of pi, so let's say for example printf, I'll just call my function clear screen. So printf %f. So I'm just trying to print the value of pi, and so the value 3.1415 has been retrieved. So the one and only thing is that, okay, we are trying to give an alternate name. We are trying to give an alternate name, or we are trying to give a new name for the existing data type. So existing data type or the primitive data type is float in this particular case. And instead of giving the data type as float, I am just making use of the name, that is FL. So FL is actually the type definition for the data type, that is float. So I'm not going to discuss more on this type definition. So basically your structure is actually a type definition. So structure, remember, it is actually a user defined data type, like array. Structure is also user defined data type. So we can make use of type definition, or it is understood that your structure is actually a type defined data type. So normally what we do is, for your structure we used to give the okay, some of you have asked whether your structure can be declared outside the main function. So in this particular example, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to create my structure outside the main function. So your structure can also be a it can be declared outside your main function. So I'm making use of the structure name, that is employee. So my employee will have the members of the structure, that is employee ID. Name of the employee, that is character data type, character array. Salary value, we'll have a salary value. So this is nothing but my structure. So this is my structure definition for employee. So struct is the keyword I'm using, and the name of my structure is employee. So basically employee is of a structured data type. So basically your employee will act as a new data type. So whenever we are trying to create a variable for my structure, so let's say for example I'm trying to create a variable for my structure, so I will be making use of the name of the structure, that is employee. So which means your employee will act as a data type, that's a user defined data type, which is of the form of structure, So here when I'm trying to create a variable for my structure, I have to make use of the name of the structure. So name of the structure is nothing but the data type in this particular scenario. So here I've just created the variable, and if you want, you can directly access the value for that particular variable. You can directly access the value for the variable. So let's say for example here I'm giving the values as 101, I'm giving the value as Gopal, and I'm giving the value as 40,000 as a salary. So I'm trying to print the values. I think this particular concept you are aware of. We saw it in the previous video itself, how to print the values. So I'm just trying to print the value of the employee ID, followed by the name of the employee, followed by the the salary. So as I told you, we have to make use of the structure variable name. So structure variable name is E1, and we have to make use of the dot operator followed by the member of the structure, So E1 dot name, E1 dot salary. So this is something that we are familiar with. We have seen the previous example itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just trying to give a blank value. Let's say for example I'm just trying to miss out the salary field in this particular scenario, and I'm trying to print the salary value. So what will be the output? So always remember, whenever you are trying to miss out some of the values for the structure member, so default values or the null values will be taken into consideration. So when I run this particular piece of code, you can see that the salary field will have the value that is 0. So always remember, whenever you're trying to miss out some kind of values for specific members in your structure, so the default values will take place. So moving on further, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, so let's say for example, I'm just keeping this as 40,000. Now we'll see how to copy the values of a structure into another variable. So in the very next statement, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to create another variable employee of employee structure. So I'm just creating another variable employee E2, and that is getting assigned to the variable that is E1. So remember, E1 is actually a variable that is of a employee structure, So now what happens is E2 is another variable of employee structure. So whatever values that the E1 variable is holding, that values will be mapped to the variable that is E2. So here what happens is I'm just trying to replicate the same piece of code. So whatever value that E1.EAD had, that will be again assigned to E2.EAD, and whatever value that E1.name had, that will be assigned to E2.name as well, and whatever value that E1.salary had, that will be assigned to E2.salary. So this particular statement, remember, this particular statement simply implies that E1.EAD will be assigned to E2.EAD, and similarly E1.name will be assigned to E2.name, and finally you have the salary field. So E1.salary will be assigned to E2.salary. Actually this is vice versa. Actually here you should have E1 dot, and here you should have E2 dot, the left hand side. Okay, so when I'm trying to print, so this particular statement means the following statements. So just I will just simply commented out. So here I'm just trying to run this piece of code. Let me print the values in the new line. So if you see the output, you can just simply see that okay, we have got the same output for both the employee variables, both the employee structure variables. We have got the same output. So the first line of output is through the variable that is E1, and the second line of output is through the variable E2. So we have seen how to copy one structure variable to another structure variable. So next we are about to see the concept of nested structures, how we can create the nested structure. So let's say for example here I have I'm creating a structure that is date of birth. Let us consider date of birth. So the date of birth will have the day, month, and then the year, So this is my structure value for the date of birth. So now here what I'm trying to do is, here I'm just trying to create one more member in my employee structure. So remember, we have created two structures in this particular code. Okay, so the first structure is the date of birth, DOB, and the second structure is the employee. So one of the member in the employee structure is the date of birth. So what I'm trying to do is, here I'm just trying to create one more member, that is, let's say for example birth date. So this birth date is of a structured data type. And the name of the structure it is getting pointed is DOB. So remember, birth date is a variable. It is actually a member of the structure that is employee. And this particular birth date is pointing to a structure, and the name of the structure is DOB. So whenever you are trying to create a nested structure, always remember, I'm coming from the beginning. So here we have a structure that is employee, and this employee has got 4 members. It has got 4 members. The first member is the employee ID, the second member is the name, the third member is the salary, the fourth member is actually a birth date. It's actually a birth date, and this birth date is actually a user defined data type. It's actually a user defined data type, and the name of that particular data type is DOB, and it is of a structured data type. So if we want to create the record for the birth date, then we have to point to the structure that is DOB. So we have to include the values of day, month and year through the structure member that is birth date with the help of the nested structure that is DOB. So if it is confusing for you, I'm just going to show you how this particular piece of code is going to work. I'm just simply commenting off this section. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to include the values. So I have created a particular variable that is E1, that is of employee data structure. So remember, you have your structure employee, and that particular employee structure has got another data member. So remember, this data member, this particular structure member is birth date, and this birth date is of a structured data type. It is of a structured data type, and it is pointing to the structure that is DOB. It is pointing to the structure DOB. Okay, so always remember, your birth date is of the data type that is DOB. That is of DOB, and it has got to enter the values of day. It has got to enter the value of day. So that day will be accessed with the help of the dot operator. That day will be accessed with the help of the dot operator. And if you want to touch the structure member birth date that is present in your employee structure, then you have to access it with the help of the variable that is E1. That is with the help of the variable that is E1. Okay, so I'm just trying to assign the values. So E1 dot, that is the employee, the structure variable dot the member of the structure dot, again that particular member of the structure is a structure, it's actually a structured data type. So that will point to the structure definition. So here again I'm going to make use of the dot operator, and then I'm trying to assign the value. And similarly I'm just trying to assign the value for the year as well. I'm trying to assign the value for earth as well, the year as well. So say for example, these are the values that I have assigned for the year as well. So now I'm trying to print the values. Now. So let's say for example, when I'm trying to print the values, again I have to make use of the same mode. Okay, the thing is that I have to make use of the variable name of my structure. So again I have to make use of the variable name of my structure. So I'm just trying to print the values. So here it is actually a integer value. So E1.birthday.day, and again I want to print the value of month. So I'm making use of the same structure, that is E1 dot the member of the structure, that is birth date, and that is pointing to the member of another structure. So I'm making use of the month, and finally the year. So when I'm just trying to print these values. So when I'm trying to run this piece of code, so you can see that the date of birth, that is the day, the month as well as the year, all these are getting printed. So basically the idea is very, very simple. So listen carefully. Here we have declared a structure. And that structure has got 4 members. It has got 4 structure members. So the first one is the employee ID, the name, and then the salary. So they are the members of the structure employee. But if you see the fourth one is birth date, and this birth date is actually of a structured data type, and that data type is being defined in another structure. Okay, the data type of this birth date is actually a structure, and that structure is being defined in another structure. So basically we are making use of the nested structure in this particular concept. So if you have any queries related to this particular video, you can post the questions in your comment section. Thank you for watching this.